Honorable Justice Yonet Cummings Edwards, Chancellor of the Judiciary of Guyana Acting, Her Excellency Lillian Chatterjee, High Commissioner of Canada to Guyana and Suriname, Ms. Gloria Richards Johnson, Jurist Project Director, partners, stakeholders, and customers of the court, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit Guyana, members of the judiciary at all levels, along with members of the Bar Association of Guyana and the Guyana Association of Women Lawyers, and Ms. Alison Ali, Jurist Project Coordinator and Communications Specialist, were working together in a public education and engagement working group. This working group, along with a consulting firm hired by jurists, was in the process of developing public education campaigns designed to build public trust and confidence in the judiciary and the judicial system. The pandemic reordered our communication strategy. It was fortuitous that we were already engaged because the working group was able to commence a campaign entitled, "We Can Still Hear You." This campaign helped us to assure citizens that despite the pandemic, the judicial system continued to function and that there was access to justice as their matters could still be heard. The campaign featured judicial officers delivering messages on social media and radio. This opened up a new dimension in our relationship with the citizens we serve by having leaders of the judiciary speak directly to the public about the rule of law and access to justice. Access to justice in the context of COVID continues to be expanded as we employ a range of technologies and platforms for hearing matters, embracing flexibility about where judges, magistrates, claimants, defendants, prosecutors, the police, complainants, and accused could be located at the time of hearings or trials. Practice directions detail the operations of the courts and the cases that are considered urgent. I particularly highlight domestic violence applications as being in the category of urgent cases. These matters require special attention due to the risks to family members, especially women and children. I also highlight the recommencement of jury trials as we seek to ensure that accused, especially those in custody, have their trials conducted in a reasonable time as mandated by the Constitution of Guyana. COVID-19 safety guidelines have meant the restriction of the opening hours of registries and court offices and the enforcement of limits on how many persons can be physically in the courts and such registries and offices. As a result, we have publicized contact information such as telephone numbers and email addresses and established a website with an online filing mechanism so that there was and continues to be access to our courts, registries, and offices. The pivot to the COVID-19 communications campaign was an imperative, but the overarching communications project to build public trust and confidence in the judiciary remains a very important focus of our partnership with jurists. As we return to implementing our core communication strategy, we will build on the We Can Still Hear You campaign so as to educate the public about our judiciary and our judicial system. We want to ensure that you, our court customers, matter. We assure you that your matters matter. We want to assure you that ours is a judicial system in which you can place your trust and confidence.
Hello, Chancellor Yonet Cummings Edwards, Chief Justice Roxanne George, Mrs. Gloria Richards Johnson, Director of the Jurist Project, Mr. Tini Husty, President of the Guyana Bar Association, Ms. Suanna Lovell, Registrar of the Supreme Court, members of the media, and members of the public. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this virtual event. The theme of the event is important as it aims to inform the public that despite the restrictions of the pandemic, the courts, the lawyers, the judges, and the whole justice system is still here to serve you. And I'm very pleased that Guyana's judiciary, under the leadership of the Chancellor and Chief Justice and the Judicial Reform and Institutional Strengthening Project, known as Jurist, supported by the Government of Canada, has placed a strong emphasis on public education and engagement. All members of the judicial system, judges, lawyers, and magistrates know the importance of the judicial branch in a democratic society. We have all seen the three-legged stool, which depicts the judicial, legislative, and executive branches of government as legs of a stool, equally important in holding up democracy and good governance. And certainly those in the profession know how critical the judicial branch is. But is this effectively communicated to the public? If the public doesn't understand the value of the judicial branch, they will not be willing to support it through their taxes and other funding, or serve their role on juries, or trust the decisions that come from the system. And a lack of trust and support in the system has grave consequences. Educating the public about what courts, judges, and lawyers do needs to start at an early age. It must start as part of primary school education and continue into high school and throughout adulthood. And by education, I don't mean simply reciting the facts about the constitutional creation of the three branches of government. We have to bring the judicial system to life. We have to bring to life the landmark decisions our courts have made over the years and the very real impact they have on society. For example, in Canada, it was through a court ruling that deemed women as persons that enabled women to sit in the Canadian Senate for the first time. We have to make our legal system and the judiciary real for the public. It is for this reason that I must once again commend Guyana's judiciary for launching this creative public education program we are launching today, which seeks to assure the citizenry that the wheels of justice keep on turning. Despite being in the throes of a global pandemic, the program uses different tools and communication channels to ensure that the message of "we can hear you and we are working for you" can be heard throughout all segments of the population and engenders trust and confidence in the judicial system. A strong judiciary is one that listens to those they serve. And I'm thrilled to see Guyana's judiciary using different means to reach and serve the public more effectively. Social media platforms, mobile courts, and recording equipment are tools being employed in Guyana right now that help make the court more accessible. I understand this program includes and involves all actors in the sector, from the Bar Association to the Chief Justice. This will help to ensure the key message of this program, "We can still hear you," will be heard far and wide. Congratulations to the Chancellor and the entire Guyanese judiciary for their commitment to the people of Guyana. We look forward to continuing our partnership in making justice more accessible and transparent for everybody. Thank you.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're pleased that you have joined us for what we consider a milestone event in the Jurist project. The issue of lack of confidence in court systems throughout the region seems to strike a chord with the judiciary, the public, and politicians alike. The reality for most is that the courts don't look like a responsive, transparent, or accountable organization. This may well be because these characteristics were never seen as vital performance indicators for courts. But times have changed, and the crisis of confidence in the courts is reflective of the emerging views that courts need to catch up with the ever-evolving world. The issue of confidence in the courts needs to be seen in the larger context of changing perceptions and expectations of governments and government institutions. The idea that the voice of the public is important is rarely contested. What is the subject of fierce debate is what can be taken as a meaningful or accurate representation of that voice. The systemic and responsible engagement of the public provides an important means not only to provide greater legitimacy to the courts, but also to protect them from political exploitation. The possibility of shutting out the public voice or placating it seems to be the least effective as well as the least creative way of responding to the crisis of confidence in the courts. The Jurist Project firmly believes that effective engagement offers a much more liberating and satisfying prospect. However, a true engagement of the public needs to start from a position of respecting and valuing public input and providing conditions where public judgment can be accurately captured or reflected. A legitimate public involvement would clearly seek to incorporate and harness the views of Joe or Jane Public, the ordinary everyday citizen that does not have a particular axe to grind, but is concerned with the things most citizens can be thought to be concerned with, such as public safety and the integrity and fairness of the justice system. The Jurist Project prides itself in listening to the needs of its many stakeholders, and this is the reason why we are here today. The launch of a public education campaign, together with the Guyana judiciary, to ensure that the public is kept informed of happenings of the court during these times, is of critical importance. It is also part of a wider engagement campaign. We have heard the call of the judiciaries and our many stakeholders who recognize that there's an urgent need for us to start engaging in a more meaningful way with our varied target audiences in each territory. It is in this regard that we are working towards developing the capacities of judiciaries to undertake public education and engagement initiatives and programs that will redound to the benefit of all judicial and justice sector stakeholders. Additionally, we are supporting campaigns like We Can Still Hear You to ensure that you remain informed of the services of the court and the mechanism being employed to keep you safe. To do this, we require an approach that includes a varied stakeholder group, as we are seeing here today. The judiciary cannot do it alone. This campaign is one such activity that has had the support and input of a wide cross-section of many stakeholders. Our objective is to ensure and encourage judiciaries to maintain sustained dialogue with their many target audiences, including men, women, youth, and the poor, on issues such as the different levels of courts, their roles and responsibilities, and the role of the judicial sector in ensuring gender equality and access to justice. To this end, I congratulate the Judiciary of Guyana, and thank you so much.
Her Excellency Lillian Chatterjee, High Commissioner of Canada to Guyana and Suriname, Honorable Justice Yonette Cummings Edwards, Chancellor of the Judiciary, Acting, Honorable Roxanne George, Chief Justice of Guyana, Acting, Ms. Gloria Richards Johnson, Jurist Project Director, ladies and gentlemen of the media. The COVID-19 pandemic presented the courts with a considerable challenge to ensure that we kept providing the judicial and other services required by citizens while keeping everyone safe. As you have heard, we took steps to limit access to registries and offices across the country at every level, the magistrates' courts, the high courts, and the Court of Appeal. Even with the limited access, it was necessary, especially in the early days, before everyone was aware of and practicing the protocols for COVID-19 safety to ensure there was clear and adequate signage at all of our buildings. Social media was a critical part of the suite of actions that we embraced under this campaign to reach our stakeholders and citizens as a whole. The COVID-19 pandemic also provided the impetus for immediate action to be taken. On our website under this project, we quickly launched supremecourt.gy to provide general information and to implement an e-filing mechanism. The website still has the We Can Still Hear You theme, but as the public education project progresses, it will serve the overall communications needs of the judiciary and all citizens. Also, anticipate that this e-filing mechanism will soon be replaced by our full case management system. I would like to close by taking this opportunity to add my thanks to the Juris Project and the Government of Canada.
Her Excellency Lilia Chatterjee, High Commissioner of Canada to Guyana and Suriname, Honorable Madam Justice Roxanne George, Acting Chief Justice of Guyana, Mrs. Gloria Richards Johnson, Juris Project Director, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Ever so often, a case of political, social, or cultural impact captures the attention and emotion of all our citizens at once. The judiciary is then thrust onto center stage, and the particular judicial officers involved in the case become, for a while at least, household names. Apart from these instances, judicial officers and the judiciary as a whole are left to the day-to-day routine of adjudicating, deciding, and delivering decisions on the various matters heard in court. And while this may not capture the national imagination, they are individual citizens, families, and groups for whom these decisions, which are made every day, matter. Therefore, whenever anything changes the ability of the courts to hear any matter that concerns our citizens, their families, their property, their business, or their relationships, or even the state, the courts must find a way to respond quickly, safely, and efficiently. The COVID-19 pandemic is one such event. It was a great onslaught on every institution. The courts were not spared. Unprecedented in modern era, the COVID-19 pandemic potentially sought to disrupt the delivery of justice to our citizens. It made it difficult for matters to be filed, for cases to be heard, for decisions to be communicated, and for remedies to be implemented. It prevented persons from accessing the courts because of the national stay-at-home and curfew orders. It also prevented members of the public with interest in this justice system from gaining physical access to the courts. Conscious of citizens' needs, the Supreme Court of Judicature of Guyana took swift action to ensure that these matters could still be heard, so that justice was neither delayed nor denied. We ensured that even though one had to maintain social distancing, there was no legal distance between you and the court and your matter to be heard. There was no legal isolation either. Our judicial officers, our judges, commissioners of titles, magistrates, and registrars worked remotely using online platforms or in physical courtrooms, depending on the circumstances of the case. These virtual hearings provided a clear segue to the virtual campaign. The virtual campaign launched today underscores the need to keep everyone informed. As we work to keep the wheels of justice turning through the use of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, GoToMeeting, and other online platforms, there was immediately evident the need to ensure that citizens were aware of this fact. There was the need for citizens to be aware also that their access to justice was not compromised and that the work of the court was ongoing. Through our partnership with the Judicial Reform and Institutional Strengthening Project, the Juris Project, which is funded by the Government of Canada, we were able to quickly develop and implement a public communications campaign themed We Can Still Hear You. This campaign sought to give citizens everywhere the assurance that COVID-19 notwithstanding, access to justice was still important and could be realized. Our campaign was implemented through traditional radio and on social media. It included upgrade to signage around our court buildings to advise, educate, and remind citizens of the need to wash or sanitize their hands, wear a mask, and maintain physical distance from each other. Our response, with the assistance of the Juris Project, also afforded us the opportunity to quickly develop and launch our website, supremecourt.gy. While this was a first step that will be further developed over time, it allowed us to implement a filing mechanism that reduced the need for visits to the court registries to file matters during the pandemic. The move into social media pages and the website for communicating court information was new for our judiciary, but we were remarkably successful. One of our posts in the We Can Still Hear You campaign in less than a week had an organic reach of over 60,000 persons. It received 1,134 likes, comments, and shares, and 1,632 photo views. It generated 4,327 other clicks, and with boosting had more than 73,000 impressions. This gives another dimension to the aphorism that justice must not only be done, but must manifestly seen to be done. It also reinforces the fact and benefits of improved communication and dissemination of information on the judicial system. Indeed, as is often said, justice is not a cloistered virtue. In putting into the public sphere the information that society needs to know about the courts, public confidence in the administration of justice is engendered. The public education program is definitely an important step in this regard. On behalf of the Supreme Court of Judicature, I wish to thank the Juris Project for their staunch support in the delivery of the public education and awareness program. I particularly wish to thank the project director, Mrs. Gloria Richards Johnson, and the government and people of Canada for their unwavering support in the realization of the public education program. Many thanks indeed.